What's up, guys? Back again. Let's talk about Captain America the First Avenger, which I'm honestly really excited to talk about because Captain America the First Avenger, when you take into account the first four movies that came out in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Iron Man, Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2, Thor, and then Captain America, it's funny how you go from Iron Man to Hulk to Thor to this, in which this one is completely different from the other ones. I'd argue even more than Thor, even though Thor had all these magical elements to it. But it was mostly on Earth. This one is on Earth, but it is in the 1940s during World War II. And this is the first one that is not in the current timeline, and I really liked that. I liked that we got a refreshing, even though it didn't really need to be refreshed, but I liked the idea that we got a refreshing new Marvel movie that wasn't in current time. I thought that was cool. I liked the idea of having it in World War II, but fictionalizing it in a way where it was interesting with these characters. Like these characters, especially Iron Man. Like I like the idea of this character could be interpreted very blandly, but Chris Evans does a really good job of portraying this character. This at first really weakling small character who just doesn't have he doesn't have the abilities to fight in war, and he just wants to be the old-fashioned hero. He wants to fight, and I love the idea of somebody just being so kind-hearted and wanting to fight. And I like the idea of how the line he says in the movie, like he hates bullies. He doesn't care where they're from. He just wants to save people, help people out. He reminds me of Wonder Woman along the way, where these characters, or Superman, where these characters are just fighting for the will of saving people's lives, not for personal gain, for just wanting to prove themselves, to want to be heroes. And I really love when they do that. And this character could be interpreted as really bland, but I thought that Chris Evans did a good job. I thought that he brought a lot of emotion and a lot of humor to this role that you wouldn't expect. I thought that this character would have been very bland and very, oh, I'm all for everything good. But I liked how this character in the first movie, first Captain America movie, he is really just like he has that happy-go-lucky character, but he's got more depth to him than you would expect. And I think that it works really well just as this character. And I think that all the characters are fun in this movie. I like Peggy Carter a lot. She is a badass character. And I love the idea that they put her in this time frame where were not treated the same. And I like the idea of how she is the one mostly in charge. Like, she's the badass. She's the one who fights for, like, every other man does. I thought that was really cool, and I think that she just does a great job. Like, I really thought that she was a great character in this movie. And Bucky Barnes was good, even though this is the movie where he's in it the least. And especially after knowing what happens after this movie, he is really important in the other movies, way more. But he is still good and has, like, he's not very, he doesn't have much to him in this movie, but of course this is a series where it keeps going into arcs as the characters go along into different movies. So overall, Bucky in this one is not as important, but I mean he is important, but not as important as the other ones. But he's fine. He's fine in this movie, but he's way more interesting in the other movies. And I liked Red Skull. I thought that he was a cool villain. I thought that Red Skull was like he was just this guy who wanted power. He wanted to rival Adolf Hitler, and I like the idea of that. I like the idea of him wanting to be be so in power, and I think that that's cool. It's just it's not a very complex reason for a villain, but I think that Hugo Weaving did a good job. Hugo Weaving's a great actor, and I think he did awesome as this character. And he plays this character in a way I think that does a really good balance between it could have been interpreted really cheesy, but he does a great job of balancing it right where it's like it's the perfect amount of comic book flair, but it doesn't go over the top and overly silly. I think that he does a good job of trying to be. He does a great balance between the two. Um, and I really, just like I said, I love how Steve Rogers' story arc in this movie is that he wants to fight for the war. Then he is taken to test to become Captain, and he becomes Captain America. And whenever he does, he's not getting what he wants, and he eventually just fights Red Skull. But I like that it doesn't give him his full story arc, but it feels like a complete movie still, like with this character. And I love the ending. I thought the ending is one of the best endings of any of the Marvel movies, because the way that he, even though we know he comes back, of course, but the way he sacrifices himself to not have New York blown up, I really like that idea of him sacrificing himself and having that talk with Peggy right whenever he goes down. And I like the idea that he still lives, and I like the idea that after he sacrifices himself, he comes back in the present, frozen for 70 years. And I really liked how he wakes up, and then he just wakes up in this room, not understanding what's going on, and then listens to the radio and hears a baseball game that he was at. So it wouldn't make sense that he's there, but he's listening to it in bed. So I like the idea how he quickly figures out that he's not where he's supposed to be, and then he runs outside and he's in current New York City, and Nick Fury shows up, and I think that that's a cool, great moment where Nick Fury comes up to him and says that you've been asleep for 70 years. And I love the idea of how Steve Rogers looks out in the distance, and Nick Fury says, "Is something wrong?" And he just says nothing. It's just, "I had a date," and then it ends. And I think that that's a good ending stinger, to be like, oh, okay, that's really sad that like he's gonna be like, he's in this current world now with the other characters, but man, he lost all his friends, everybody, just to be in the future, even though he didn't know that was gonna happen. But I thought that it was done really well, and I thought this movie was really entertaining, just like the other ones. The characters are all likable. I feel like it's a cool, different movie than the other one, since it's in World War II. And I thought it'd be less interesting than what it is, because I'm not a big war fan. Like, it's hard for me to watch those. I feel like they just don't hold my attention. But this one, since it had fictionalized stuff in it, it made me care more, because I'm usually bored by stuff that's real. I don't know. I'd rather be into fantasy stuff. But overall, I think Captain America: The First Avenger is a very great and solid first Captain America movie. It's definitely not, like, I love Winter Soldier and Civil War more, but this one is still a very solid first Captain America film, and I think it's really worth it, and I think it's still a great Marvel movie. And overall, I just really, really do love it and appreciate it for what it is. So overall, I thought it was great. Thanks guys so much for watching. Avengers is next video, and I'll talk to you next time.